everything about tomatoes. We are having an in-depth tomato talk
This
with
is
the
gonna-
farm kids.
It's awesome.
As you know, every Monday at noon, we tune in to Facebook Live on Coast of Maine's channel to garden with you. And we love to share everything with you, whether it's gardening, how to grow from seed, how to fertilize your soils, how to prep your beds, all the things we want to help you with. We teach kids how to garden at Farm to Table Kids. We do everything organic, everything by our hands. And if I can teach these kids how to trellis tomatoes, you can do it too. All right? Tomatoes, you guys. First of all, farm kids, thank you so much for helping us. The greenhouse is warm, so thank you for volunteering to be part of this educational program.
Yeah, it's hot in here. I will say
All
that.
of the kids here are junior farmers, which
Oh, they
means
are.
that they help with the counselors
Yeah.
throughout the day, and they help me with really special garden tasks.
That's
and one
awesome.
of those things is trellising tomatoes. So one thing about tomatoes that I want to point out for everyone is that when you're working with the tomato, think of a tomato as one main stem, and you want to protect that main stem as much as possible. And farm girls, when we look at the tomatoes in front of you, and each one has your own plant, if you look at the tomato in front of you, you'll see, you can delicately pick it up, and you'll see that this tomato, of course it has a ton of branches, but can you see that it has one main stem from the bottom to the top? Do you see the one main stem? That's the stem that we want to protect. And you'll notice that off of the stem are all these junctions, all these intersections. And they're basically trying to make a new stem. They're trying to make the top very confusing. So what we're going to do is tie these up. We're going to trellis them so that they're not falling over. And then after they're tied up and trellised, we're going to prune them and show everybody how to properly prune tomatoes. The great thing about tomato pruning during this stage is that when you take a sucker off of a tomato, like this, you're going to be able to put that in water, and this would be another plant that you could actually plant. Let's say an animal comes in and damages your plant, or you have something that happens to your crop. You can take your suckers, I always save these as backups, and put them in water, and then the kids love that they can see the root development and then plant it right in the ground. The other thing I want to point out that's special about tomatoes is all of these follicle hairs that you can see on the stem. All of these hairs, guys, will create a root. If you were to take this and just put it right in the soil, the tomato would still live and regenerate and reroot. So it's hot in here. Let me show you guys how to trellis tomatoes, and then people that are watching, fire in any questions that you have, because Cameron from Coast of Maine is behind the lens.
I'm behind the lens. I'll ask the questions.
Yep,
I
and
can
he'll
read
answer.
sometimes.
Sometimes he can read. So
Yeah.
fire off your questions.
Go ahead.
And see what happens. Okay, so girls, what you're going to do is, can you show everybody your tomato clips? This is what we use at Farm to Table Kids. It is a tomato clip. And what it does is, if you're at home in your home gardening, what we do is we have a vertical wire that goes across, and this is the head wire. And then it's a horizontal wire across. And then we have vertical wires that drop down. This vertical wire is going to drop down here. And then Jasmine, you go ahead and take your clip and show everybody how that works. The middle part is what catches the string inside. And then she's going to drop that down. And you want to put the clip below the junction here. Yep, and it goes right along the stem. That's perfect, Jasmine, yes. Good. And now you can see how this has plenty of room for the stem to grow. And it also will hold up that plant if we were to get high winds in here. Okay, now Jasmine, this looks gorgeous. What you're gonna do now is look at your main stem from the bottom to the top. And we're gonna go through at each intersection and make sure we pull off any suckers. So far, you're doing great. We pulled off this sucker. Now, here is one. This is tricky. Now here, this is a sucker. Personally, I always leave the second to last sucker just in case something were to happen to the top of this plant. This would take the lead, so I'm gonna let that go. Jasmine, the only sucker I would pull off here is this one, that little one, and you can, actually, hold on one second, it's just that one. Yep, you can take that right with your fingers or with snips. Good, that's perfect, okay?
Excellent.
So now, we're gonna go over to Emma's, and Emma, you did a great job with your tomato clip. I think we can get one more tomato clip on here. So go ahead and put the center in the string, and the clip goes right down here below the intersection. Excellent. Yes, yes, yes. And then you have lots of suckers on yours, so let's take a good look. It looks like we took a sucker off here, and then here. Now, Cameron, one thing I want to point out, see how these tomatoes here have some leaves that are touching the ground and their leaves are curling up?
Yep.
We want airflow around tomatoes,
Yes,
especially.
it's a big deal.
Tomatoes have to have airflow. Without proper airflow, you'll run into things like blight. So what we're going to do is, Jasmine, you can actually take your snips and snip this bottom one off. But snip it like here so that, yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Good.
Nice
So we're going
job.
to take that one off. And over here, I want Emma's to be able, I don't want these plants touching so much because, again, for disease management. So we're going to take this leaf off here, right there. There you go. Good. All right, we'll put that aside. And anytime you prune your tomatoes, move the foliage away from your plants. These are going to go outside. Okay, now here, Emma, you've got beautiful
If you let
tomatoes
suckers,
growing.
listen, Miguel Chavez,
Yes?
he says if you let suckers become full branches, still worth trimming or clipping, or just deal with them growing wild like that.
What you can do is, let me show you something, because sometimes I'll take a plant like, there was one plant that had two. This plant here, as you can see, this is the main stem. This sucker is pretty developed. So for this plant, for anything in my greenhouse, I like to keep it to one stem and keep them very pruned because of airflow and circulation. In the field, I would let something like this go and actually hold two lines, one for this sucker and one for the main stem. It's totally okay. All that means is there's more energy in that plant working to make more fruit, so your tomatoes won't be like as big and round and perfect. They're still going to be tomatoes and they're still going to be great. They just, if you're trying to get like a 16-ounce slicer, you're not going to get that by having two main stems. Does that make
Cool.
sense?
That's a great answer.
So,
Yeah.
if you were to never prune your tomatoes, you would still get tomatoes 100%.
Yep.
You can absolutely grow tomatoes and never trellis them and never prune them, and they'll grow on the ground and they'll be great. But if they were to do that, it'd also be highly acceptable to disease and pests. So, Emma, all right, we've got this tomato here, and we're gonna look at your main stem. Look at all the suckers here. So this is a great one. Cameron,
Yeah.
can you come over here and see all of this activity happening at the bottom of this tomato plant? We have a lot of stuff happening here. So there's a lot of greenery in here that we need to trim out. So Emma,
Yep.
do you have some snips? Yep. So do you see how this is a sucker? How there's the main stem, and then there's a leaf, and then there's another one growing. That already came out. Go ahead and pull it.
There
All
you
right,
go.
now that
Nice.
I'm gonna keep that and put that in water. So Jasmine, can I give this to you? We're gonna keep that sucker. So this one. And then this one here, see this sucker at that intersection? Go ahead and take that out. And see how they just kind of snap? They're so brittle. Do you see how that's that intersection? Take that one. No,
Nope.
no, no. One in the middle. There you go. Yep, and we want to just remove the whole thing, okay? And then let's follow this up. We got that one, that one. How about that one? Right there.
Good.
Great.
Nice job.
And then this one, like I said, I just like to keep the one at the top. I just like to keep just in case something were to happen to my lead here. Now take this guy out
Nice.
and this guy. This one right on top.
There you go.
Very good. Now see these ones on the ground? This one kind of already broke. Take that off. Take that. Good. And let's take this one. See how it's touched the ground and it's already coming up? Good. And then we have that airflow down at the bottom that looks really beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Opened up a lot of space.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
see, once you look at these three,
Yep.
and you look at these three, you can see how there's a lot more space going through. And, you know, we're just doing this as an educational lessons with the farm girls, but we could be much more aggressive.
Yep.
And trim off some more here too. For example, I'll probably take this one because it's touching the ground and touching another plant. But never trim more than a third of a plant. It would just stress it out way too much. So never take off more than a third. Okay? So now, let's look over here, Sydney. Sydney, we'll use yours as an example of how to keep 2 lead stems. Okay? This is something I would do with sun golds. Sun golds, any kind of cherry tomatoes, sweet 100s. They're so prolific. You should prune them. If you don't, well, they'll be fine. They'll just be very bushy and very prolific, but they're great ones to separate the main stems from. So what you're gonna do is just take your lines. We have 2 lines here, one for this stem, one for this stem. You can see how we have secured them. This one lost its tension, so put that back on. Now, with this, Sydney, we're gonna go through and trim this guy back. So see how this one's touching the ground?
Yeah.
Pull that up. And hold on one second. So when you're using your hands for tomatoes, what you want to do is go down and up, okay? If for some reason, and it's best to use pruners, but if you're pruning by hand like that, it's not ideal because sometimes you can pull the skin away from the plant and that keeps it open to disease, so you don't want to do that. So we're going to take our, you can use these for snips right now, and cut this off, this bottom little guy. Good. And then we're going to follow this up. Do you see any suckers so far? No, I see this little guy here. You can use your fingers for that. Good. And then we've got a sucker here. You can use your hands for this one. Good. All right. And now this is a sucker here. So we're going to take that out. Good. Yep, you got it. Now we're going to look at the bottom and we're going to say, how can we increase our airflow a little bit here? And let's go with the bottom leaf and take this guy out. All right. That looks good to me. Super.
Looks awesome.
Great. And you can see what we're doing is we're taking, we're basically redirecting energy from the plant. Energy that's going into producing these suckers that are basically sucking energy away from the plant and away from fruit production. So then we go over here. Let's see, what do you have, Penny? Let's see Penny's plant. So Penny, you did a great job tying it up. Ooh, Penny, you have quite a few suckers on here. So Penny, down here, see this branch that's hitting the ground? We're gonna take that up. Take that off. I'm gonna take this one too. And then, Penny, when you look at the main stem, can you show me where you think the suckers are? So we look here, that's all gone. We get that there, that's the main stem. What about this here?
That one is also.
Yep, go ahead and pull that. Good
Yeah,
job!
that's awesome.
And then do you see another one? This one right here? Yep. Great. Awesome. That looks fantastic. And that one is making fruit right there. So now the energy is going to go into making bigger fruit instead of growing those branches that we don't need. And then Coco, you show me. You're the last one. Let's see this one. All right, Coco, this one has some leaves that are really hitting the ground. So I'm going to take this one off. Why don't you pull that up and see how it breaks? Good. Did you make that bracelet here?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so pretty. You got it. Good. Good. Now that'll give us a better view. What do you think about suckers? If you look at this stem, that's cleared. That's cleared.
Maybe this
Yeah, good.
Oh, nice.
one, this one.
Excellent. And that little guy there. Good. That's awesome. And then this is so far on the ground. I'm just going to take that off for airflow. And that's good to go. And now you can look at our tomato. Oh, Autumn's over here. Okay, Autumn. Yours is nice and tied up. Sometimes I like taking my twine and just giving it a little extra wrap for support. So Autumn, show me what you would do to prune this plant. So that's the tomato. You don't want to take that off, but there you go. Yep, sucker's there. That one, nope, that's good. This is good. Okay, so let's look at Autumn's. This is an interesting tomato. So this is the main stem, main stem, main stem. Sometimes a kid might get here and be like, well, this is so established. What do we want to do there? Do we want to take that off? What you could do, the reason why pruning when they're at such a young developmental stage is important is because it's so much easier to take something like this off and be like, okay, I pinched that, rather than taking something like this off. Because, technically that's a sucker, right? But because that's so established and I don't want to open my plant up, I don't want to make a big cut in my plant like that, I'm going to let that go, and I'm going to use 2 leads on this plant and just go 1, 2 on this. And I believe this is a Wisconsin 55, which is like an 8-ounce slicer. So that'll work really well for that plant. And that way we can get a little bit more production out of it. So as you can see, that's just a general introduction to Tomato Pruning 101. If you have any questions, let us know, because these farm girls know all the answers. But as you can see, just by doing that, we increased so much airflow to the tomatoes and redirected the energy back into fruit production rather than foliar production. But check it out, doesn't that look a lot healthier and more just breezy than the ones that we haven't done in the front row? Looking good, girls!
Yeah, you guys did a great job. Thank you. That was awesome.
Let us know if you have any questions at all. We are always farming on the Coast of Maine channel every Monday at noon. We want to hear from you what you want to know. So let us know what questions you have. What do you want to see out in the garden? I think next week we're going to be pinching flowers, which is a way to teach people how to get more flowers out of their plants. So we'll be showing you that next week. But give us your garden questions so we can give you answers. All right? Happy farming! Bye!
That was great.